This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, this is Freddie Cohen of ESPN Radio. When I'm not talking about breaking news or breaking news on ESPN Radio, I'm always a fan and listen to the Detroit Sports Podcast, and so should you.
A historic podcast about to commence. Episode 170, now available for download. You're listening to the DocNJock Sports Podcast. I am the Doc, John Macaroon. Joining me, my cousin, Adam, the Jock Strozinski. Heard about any miracles lately, sir?
Well, Trump won an election. That surprised me. I don't know. I went to bed and I was like, seriously, man. You know how I am. I wear the tinfoil on the head, and I think the government's against all of us and is trying to kill us. There's a reason we have fluoride in our water, and it's not good for you. I don't care what my mother tells me, how it's helping my teeth. She's an idiot, too. Here's the deal, all right? I went to bed, and I was like, you know what? The whole election's going to be rigged. Hillary's going to win this thing. I wake up. I check my phone because I go to sleep because I'm not invested in any of this. I understood you stayed up pretty late just kind of following everything along, tracking everything. And I want you to tell the story about what happened with the Free Press and how they screwed everything up. But I wake up and Donald Trump's going to be our next president? What?
Unbelievable.
Bizarro world, bro.
It's happened. So now, after the election, we all realize that I will never, ever trust a poll ever again.
Never again.
Never again. Exit polls are stupid. Michigan polls are ridiculous. They were nationally lambasted on both CNN and Fox News because I watched them both. Then, what's most egregious, I think, in the state of Michigan locally is the Michigan results are given so slow. They were just released at 11:45 a.m. before we started recording. That Trump got the electoral votes, barely winning by around 13,000 votes. But what's most egregious is the polls in Michigan closed on Tuesday at 8 p.m., and so people are now going to start counting, which is fine. You want every vote to count. You want the election to be exactly on the up and up. But for the Detroit Free Press to come out on their Twitter page and to do broadcast coming out and saying, boom, done. This Michigan's going for Clinton. And right away, people were like, how do you know this? People were questioning them right away. And they doubled down. They did broadcast saying, this is all math. We got the best guy in Michigan tackling these numbers, and he's giving it to Michigan. How do you come out there as a media outlet that fast and be that irresponsible? It was unbelievable. And then you're wrong. If you're wrong,
the best guy needs to be fired.
Exactly. You're going to have egg all over your face. And
that's
what's
like
the purpose
having Mel
doing that?
Kiper sitting there telling you how the NFL draft's going to go, and he gets roughly, 45% of it wrong.
Yeah, because this isn't, two schmoes sitting on a podcast talking about the Lions are going to make the playoffs. This is about the President of the United States, a media outlet. There has to be a higher level of decorum, a higher level of respect.
Decorum. Nice usage.
Yeah,
Decorum.
they have to be, they don't need to jump the gun. Everybody's watching. Everybody wants it to be correct. For you to fly off the handle an hour after the polls closed and call it for Hillary Clinton was a disservice at the highest level. And for the better part of the last 18 months, I've watched exclusively both CNN and Fox News. And basically last night, after the election results were announced, they both flipped. Fox News is now all positive. Doom and gloom is over. Now CNN is all doom and gloom. So it's so fascinating what the media's done.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you?
That it's not journalistically as credible as I had wanted them to be.
They're both biased. They're both biased.
They're both biased.
This is the problem. Most of your media has a bias one way or another, and right there, you just seen through the veil. You seen it, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
You get a gold star today.
Yes, I seen it. Well, I had a feeling of it, and that I know people were really upset at Trump for kind of coming out and blasting the media for it. But yeah, dude, media outlets got to do a much better job. They can have much higher standards and a much higher viewership if you gain the trust of the audience by just putting out decent content. They try to sprinkle in the other side of the opinion, both do, but they're so biased, and it was unbelievable. And then quickly, my beef with the media is I have a beef with ESPN. In that, via our Twitter page at Detroit Podcast, we get people that like a myriad of my jokes, the weird shit that comes out of my head, and people like it. And so I start seeing what people do when they like, I'll go and see who the profile is and check it out. Well, an ESPN producer, a podcast producer, likes a myriad of the stuff I put out there. So I'm like, oh, this is great. Let me go reach out and say, hey, there's a lot of guys that do podcasts on your network. I'd love to chat and build some context. And she's like, well, I will definitely go around and spread the word of your network to everybody around. But everybody now that signs a new deal with ESPN, and I have it on direct message, I'll show you. She said they have an exclusivity clause. They cannot go on other podcasts outside of ESPN.
Right.
Are you kidding? This is new. I was shocked. I was like, really? That is really ridiculous.
Did you ever notice that the only people ESPN really brings on are ESPN people? They've got their own network of people. Like, I was sitting there watching Mike and Mike this morning, and Mike and Mike had Ohio State quarterback. Dang it, I just forgot his name. You know who I'm talking about. Nice blonde hair. He does the big game of the week. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head. Anyways, they had him on. That's their guy. That's when they need information on college football.
Herb Street?
Yeah, there you go. They go to Herb Street. That's who they go to. It's their dude. It just they only use their people. That's the thing. That's why you have to kind of watch where you get your information from. Get it from multiple sources. I'm not saying ESPN is bad, but ESPN only uses ESPN people. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. And I was shocked. I still have it. And I was like, very interesting. It's all I could say is that, it makes no sense literally in that I understand there are some podcasts and there's some things that you should vet. It takes 4 minutes. You get a link from somebody that says, hey, come on my show. You listen to it. If it sounds a little bit not on the up and up, you pass. All you got to do is take 3 minutes to listen to the operation. If there's crinkling in the background, is it something where you hear a phone line and the guy sounds a million miles away? You pass. That's all it takes. But what you're doing is kind of limiting yourself and limiting your exposure, because there's a lot of podcasts that get a lot of listens, and you got a lot of podcasts with followings on social media. So that policy is restrictive and quite stupid in my opinion. I'm very against it. So in the last 18 months, I got a crash course in media, and I look at it now as just entertainment. I want to see different people go at it, and CNN's done a better job of getting really quality people with really strong opinions. It's entertaining, but if you allow it to shape your opinion on things, all we ask is question everything. And that's what I take away from your stance on things is, hey, just because Doc and Jock say it, just because you hear it on, great radio stations, doesn't mean it's true. Go out there, absorb the information, use it as a guide to kind of start your investigation, and then start reading and learning a lot about what the topic is.
Do your own research.
Do your own stuff and formulate your own opinion, because the media is going to try to shape you in a way that will make you think that the world's coming to an end on Wednesday, which it did not happen.
That's right.
If you're listening to this podcast, it downloaded on iTunes. iTunes is still there. Your iPhone still works. If it doesn't involve your iPhone...
I'm curious what's on your iPhone.
Yeah, no, you don't want to know what's on. It's not, the Lions score was on it because I'm still shocked.
Is that what that is?
The Lions, sir. Let's start with them.
All right.
We got a great podcast ahead. We're going to talk about the Lions, Pistons to end the show, a great round of docs in session ahead on this very fine podcast. But to start off, my goodness, the Cardiac Cats, the Detroit Lions again. In their 9 games, all of them going into the fourth quarter, they've trailed. And in 5 games, Matthew Stafford has brought you back and done some amazing things. Sitting on the bye week, it comes at the perfect time. The election's over. We're all kind of ready to kind of take a week off from the Lions because too much drama. They're playing a lot of close games. It's one of those things where
it's
you just
a nail biter every week.
Whew, they walked away with a nail biter, but I'm going to argue that a lot of it has to do with great things that were done by the Lions, as well as some craptastic coaching and execution of terrible schemes by the Minnesota Vikings. But hey, you won the game. They did Minnesota did their best to lose the game, but Matthew Stafford did his thing. And hey, if someone gives you the opportunity to come back, why not take it? Throw it to the open receiver, get the comeback win, man. It's all good.
Here's the thing. As the game progressed, did you at any point, were you concerned that they might lose this game? When that touchdown was scored, and I think it was, 22, 23 seconds left on the clock, I was like, they left too much time. They've left too much time. What is Zimmer watching? Has he not watched any tape on the Lions? And not one? I mean, Matt Stafford has done this 4 games prior, where he brings them from the brink of elimination and sits there and either gets them into overtime or gets the victory. What was he thinking? What? He looks so perplexed at the end of the game, just sitting there scratching his head.
My corner's playing 15 yards back. I wonder why they're so wide open.
Right. Here's the thing. I had stuff to do on Sunday, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch the rest of this game. It looks like the Lions might win it. The defense was playing. Here's the thing. I called for it last week. I said the defense has to show up. This game, the defense showed up, special teams showed up, and the offense helped get you the win. This was a complete and total team effort. Every phase of the game worked, even the coaching staff. And I went hard on Caldwell last week. Even the coaching staff made plays to help this team win. This was a total team victory. And amazingly, stopping Minnesota twice in the red zone, couple times basically within the 3-yard line, and then turning around, helping this team to move the ball down the field, special teams kicking long field goals throughout the game, special teams blocking a field goal. I mean, goodness golly. And then Jim Caldwell doing some excellent coaching on the sideline. At no point was I ever fearful that they might lose this game. I thought that they were in it right up until the last second. When they get into overtime, they win the coin toss. I was like, they have a great shot to win this game. Game over. Done.
The debate that people are talking about around town, we all hear it, is whether the Lions, when you assess them, are they a good football team? Because, hey, they're struggling on defense with a myriad of injuries. Are they, as a team, a solid team because they're able to come back? And I give them credit for being able to, play tight games. That is a mark of a good football team, whether you believe they're lucky or they're good. They're sitting at 5-4. That's what your record says you are. So that means that you're doing some things philosophically that are putting you in more advantageous positions than not. But do you agree with this kind of philosophy of kind of keeping the game as close as possible and either entering the fourth quarter, either down a field goal or a touchdown and playing tight games? I kind of feel like it's a philosophical thing, knowing that the defense is struggling quite a bit with injuries. They're just trying their best to hang on. And then if they're within a touchdown or so of winning the game late, they have supreme confidence that, hey, we can execute some plays. My thinking is, why deal with all this stress? Try to go out there, and if possible, you're allowed to win the game 45-0. There is an opportunity for you to go out there and dominate a team. I just don't see the talent in order to pull ahead from teams, or if you are going to play a shootout game to hold teams from scoring on you.
And that's what it is. They don't have the talent. They're not a good enough team yet.
People are getting excited, though. People are getting excited.
You should be excited. You should. You went on the road and you beat the number one team in your division. This division is up for grabs. The Packers don't look like a very good team. Chicago is absolute garbage. I know you lost to them, but they're absolute garbage. You just went into Minnesota's house and you punched them in the mouth and you came away with a W. This division is up for grabs. You can win this division. There are guys on television networks. There are guys in newspapers. Everybody is starting to predict that the Lions will sit there and win this division. And I'm not sure how you feel about that. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen. I think they're going to compete, and I think they're going to be in the mix, and I think they might eke into the playoffs. They're going to probably be a wild card team, but I don't see them winning the division. But it's nice to think about. And the division's up for grabs. You can do it. You can do it. It's there for you to do it. The thing is, they're just not talented enough to go out there and put teams away by the second, third quarter. This is one of those things where the team is kind of learning on the fly, kind of maturing as the season moves along. I think they will get better. I think once the defense gets healthy, you're going to see a little bit of a boost there, because this defense has been dreadful. Let's be honest. They had a really good game in Minnesota, but it's been dreadful for most of the season. They're dealing with a myriad of injuries, like you said. It's one of those things where how long can you fly this close to the sun before you actually burn your wings? And I don't know if the Lions can do it the entire season. I think at some point it will catch up to them. But until that time, hey, if the W's keep coming, you're going to take them.
On Monday, Caldwell was asked by the media at his weekly presser. He was asked, like, okay, you're sitting at 5-4 on the break. How do you foresee this team looking in the second half of the season? He was adamant, and he's taking the stance that we've talked about. And the stance that I like is he's saying, listen, we don't focus on those things. We just focus on the quarter. We want to know this quarter. We're just going to focus on this bye week, get everybody mentally ready. And the next thing we're going to look at is the next task at hand, which is to go out and put a game plan together to go out there and defeat Jacksonville. And I like that. I think that's what's been good for me on this emotional ride this year, is that I'm just kind of sitting back going game by game. Let's see what the trends are. Let's see how they're performing. I can't project this team 8 weeks from now. You could get DeAndre Levy back and he's, the second coming of Ray Lewis. Or you get him back and he's terrible and he's getting picked on, or he re-injures himself again, or another key injury happens. So I'm looking at how they're playing, and my frustration more is along the lines of the quality of play, the entertainment value. Yes, they're executing a lot of things late in games, but along the way, my goodness, I'm starting to kind of just disagree overall with the dink and dunk philosophy, entertainment-wise. To cover it, it's great, as a fan. when you say, okay, my team is 5-4, we're doing okay, we're not the embarrassment of the league, we're getting talked about, with Matthew Stafford getting respect nationally. You're getting now, I think, ranked 8th in the power rankings and across the entire NFL. I like that. But when I look at the offense, my goodness, if I see another 7-yard bubble screen, I think I'm going to burst. I mean, I understand what you're trying to do with Stafford. It's just aesthetically, it's tough to watch. Stafford, 3-step drop, boom, dink and dunk. First down and 10, 2-yard run. It's just an offense that's just very boring.
But in the Minnesota game, they opened up the playbook
in the second half, too late.
They sat there and they threw the ball downfield much more than they have in the previous, 8 games? But
couldn't execute it.
Exactly. Here's the thing. Matt Stafford or his wide receivers were not in the right spot. They were inaccurate with most of the passes downfield, and just they couldn't have the big play happen. There are times where the big play occurs. I mean, you seen Golden Tate win the game in overtime. I mean, it wasn't necessarily 40 yards downfield, but it was a downfield pass that sat there and turned into a touchdown. So I think they have it, and they've got it. They use it where it's kind of sprinkled in, where it needs to open up the playbook to kind of keep the defense honest.
This is the best
That's
offense.
what they're trying to do.
Is this the best offense for this Lions team to run?
At this point, yes, because what it does is it keeps the rings on Matt Stafford. You've seen what happens with him. He is too unpredictable and too wild when you just kind of let him go out there and just throw the ball everywhere. If they can sit there, limit his interceptions, keep the pocket clean for him, he can make plays. He's a good quarterback. He's a very good quarterback. He's going to get paid like an extremely well quarterback here very shortly. You got to sit there. You got to limit his turnovers. You got to put him in the best spot to make plays. My biggest surprise so far as the season has progressed is the way that this offensive line is starting to gel. They have done some things where they've benched players, moved guys out, inserted other guys. That left side, his blind side, is doing a great job keeping him upright and not allowing guys to sit there and just murder him when he's dropping back in the pocket. And I think that's something that needs to be commended. I don't think it gets talked about enough. That left side, it's all rookies. It's Taylor Decker and it's Graham Glasgow. And then you got Swanson as your center, and he was the guy that everybody wanted to run out of town last season. It's just they did this whole thing too without Riley Reif because he had the flu this week. So you're sitting there rolling pieces in and out, and that's the one thing you can say about this team. This, I think, goes back to Bob Quinn and kind of how they're trying to build this team. There's a lot of depth on this team. They might not have the best players. They might not have the most talented players, but you know what? They've got some depth. There's not a huge drop-off. Riley Reif can't go. Guess what? Next man up, they're inserting Robinson. You know what? Robinson sits there and stands on his head, does a good job keeping Matt Stafford clean in the pocket. And that's what they're doing. That's how they're building right now. This, I think, when Bob Quinn came in, he had a plan. He had a game plan, and he knew it was going to take some time. If they make the playoffs this year, that's gravy. That's outstanding, all right? If they don't, it's no big deal because you've seen some of the fruits of Bob Quinn's labor. He's building depth on this team. When guys go down or guys get hurt, you got a fallback plan. You can sit there and insert the next guy, and there's not a huge drop-off. That's the one thing that you can say about this team's special teams. That's helping them win games is their special teams. I mean, you've seen it with Andre Roberts sits there, returns a punt. You've seen it when they get good field position. You've seen it when you've got Sam Martin booming the ball down the field, flipping the field position on the opponents. And you see it when you got a guy like Matt Prater booming 40 and 50-yard field goals left and right to help you win games. This team's special teams, which is a direct correlation of the depth that Bob Quinn has instilled on this team, is helping you win games right now.
And what's also good is that, there are guys on this team, players that have stepped up. And what came out of the game when the players talked to the press? Jim Caldwell on Saturday, I guess, delivered a great speech and got everybody riled up with the speech of, hey, be the person that everybody watches. Watch me. And that's kind of been a rallying cry. And who kind of took that and ran with it? A guy that probably needed the most, maybe a guy that the message that was intended to be delivered to. Golden Tate, a guy that we all questioned, is he really a legitimate number one? Can he be a guy in an offense if you feature him quite a bit? Can he do some things? Now, a little bit, maybe mentally, he got out of whack a little bit earlier in the year, but what he's done the last 3 weeks, a yak machine. He's really helping to pad Matthew Stafford's stats. Every time he gets the ball, you got to keep an eye on him because he's not going down. He's finding that seam to get out of bounds. He's finding the avenue to get a bunch of yards after the catch. And that play to end the game, my goodness, in overtime, catches the ball, beats 2 defenders, flies into the end zone, does the AJ Styles, hand gloves together. That was awesome. And definitely, I'm going to watch him. And you go, was he jealous that Marvin Jones was getting the early love? Was there a problem with the number of touches? Hey, if Marvin Jones is a decoy and Golden Tate can play this effectively, that's a guy that you go, you know what? If you can activate him and he can take that next step in his maturity and become a leader, that's awesome. That's a great thing. And another guy that you could call an unsung hero that came back from injury, Eric Ebron. I know we hammer him a little bit for his past and his personality a little bit. He gets hammered quite a bit for his antics, but he looked a lot more professional in his return. Maybe just some time away, got his head right. Someone maybe got in his ear and told him, hey man, every time you catch the ball, you don't need to really do the Michael Jackson thing and make it all about you. Catch the ball, be somebody that Matthew Stafford trusts, and then you can go out there and earn your spot and have some fun. And he had his fun, man. He was snapping galore on his Snapchat page after the Lions won. But on the field, he performed well. Again, I believe he had a career day in catches and numbers in terms of yardage. And he did some things that we all question, hey, when he comes back, how's he going to fit in? Now, if he can become a regular, reliable target in the red zone, look out. This team can maybe evolve offensively and do some things. So Golden Tate, Eric Ebron get a lot of credit, and I was very impressed.
Absolutely. I was probably most impressed with what that defense did. Numerous times throughout the game, Minnesota would get in the red zone. There was a time there where they were basically on the 14-yard line, got pushed back to the 40 and had to punt. They sat there, got down to the 14-yard line and had to kick a field goal. There was another time where they were basically on the 1-yard line, and that defensive line held up and looked strong, stuffed them, forced a turnover. Detroit got the ball back, I think, on the 3. Numerous times throughout this game where that defense stood up and held strong. That defensive line looked good. This is one of the first times I think we can say that this defense really helped contribute to a monster win. If at any point this defense faltered, Detroit's not winning this game. They're not in position to win this game. They don't have the opportunity for Jim Caldwell to sit there and pine for 2 seconds to get put back on the clock so the team can then throw the ball downfield, spike the ball, and now you have 2 seconds for Matt Prater to get out there and kick a field goal. What are your thoughts on Caldwell actually doing some decent coaching, which blew my mind that he was able to sit there and actually do something right because, honestly, he does a hack-ass job of coaching this team, and it's weird because every now and then a blind squirrel finds a nut, and he found his nut this Sunday.
All we can hope is that throughout the course of his career, he starts to get better day by day on Sunday. Most people have respect for him Monday through Saturday in terms of his preparation. More often than not, this team is in line. They are a respectful bunch. They look prepared. They look motivated. And, this isn't a roughshod Raider type team just getting all up in the community and doing bad stuff. He's keeping this team in line, keeping the ship afloat, and that's a good thing. But what I like is, and what you're starting to see is, people want to see if there's an opinion made about you, that you hear them, that you validate what they're saying. And in football, like we've said on numerous podcasts, at least half a dozen to a dozen podcasts, we've said a football coach that shows a little bit on the sidelines. Look what Jim Harbaugh did when he felt like he got screwed in the game on Saturday. He was up by multiple touchdowns, 3-4 touchdowns. He felt like a call didn't go his way, hat up in the air, flying all over the place. It instills in a football team, in a sport where you need as much passion and energy that's out there to get ahead. And so people are clamoring. What are they clamoring for? And people have poo-pooed it as being silly in terms of Brad Ausmus and the dugout, but I believe it has a lot of merit as a psychologist. And what's happened? People have clamored for Jim Caldwell to stop looking like a mannequin out there. What are you watching? If your team does something good, react to it. If your team is getting screwed, hey, do something. Get in the ref's ass and tell them, hey, knock it off. Because still to this day, the Lions and the refs, we're getting the short end of the stick on the field. So what does Jim Caldwell do? You're starting to see it more and more. And he talked about it a little bit as he exited his press conference. He said, I'm human too. When they asked about, hey, we're starting to see a little bit more jubilation and theatrics on the sidelines. And he's like, oh, I've always done it. Okay, come on. stop trying to kind of be politically correct. We're watching, the cameras are on you, and on key plays, as crotchety as it looks, he's trying to, fist pump, and it looks like he's an old man trying to put his hand up. It's not like, really forceful, but he is acting a little bit more excited, a little bit more animated on the sidelines, and that's a good thing. I don't think that's a bad thing in any way. It's a great sport. It's a passionate sport. Jim Caldwell is hearing what people are saying, and he's trying to incorporate it because it's not that bad. It's not that bad to go out there and celebrate a little bit when your guys force a turnover, when they make a key play, or when the refs don't screw you and they get the call right. It's not a bad thing. Now, if you're going out there and then making boneheaded calls, you're still going to get criticized for it. But when something good happens, or when you need to show that emotion, he's doing a good job. And when he, really got out there and had his head in the game and got those extra 2 seconds, it helps your team win. That's all we're asking is don't be part of the problem, be part of the solution, and be another force that can help these guys, because this Lions team needs every bit of luck, every bit of success that they can find. And if a little bit comes from the head coach, we'll take it.
As you started talking, the hamster jumped on the wheel and started spinning around in my brain. And I want to go a little bit off script of what we've got in the rundown here. Now, when I look at the schedule, they're on their bye week now. When I look at their schedule, do you think a 9-7 team can win the NFC North?
Yeah, of course. The situation is going to go like this. Minnesota is in turmoil. They fire their offensive coordinator steps away. They're in turmoil. The loss of Adrian Peterson has significantly hurt them. The Bears are led by Jay Cutler, and at any time he'll throw you the ball a couple times, get you some turnovers. And Green Bay, they're in flux too. It's there for the taking. You have to go out there and execute. And so can they do it? Yeah. Is it wrong to have skepticism? No. Now, this team, game in, game out, I would not even be surprised or that angry if they went out and laid a dud versus Jacksonville.
Well, let me paint this picture for you now, okay? This is a team that is 2-3 on the road at this point. So they're a better home team than they are a road team. That's for sure. They play the second half. They play most of their games at home. They play, I think, 4 games at home, 3 on the road. They're going to play against Jacksonville. I think they can win that game. The next game is Thanksgiving. It's against Minnesota. You already proven that you can beat Minnesota in their house. You're a much better team at home. You should win that game. Now, here's where it starts to get a little tricky. You got to go on and you got to play the Saints down in New Orleans.
That's going to be a tough shootout.
That's going to be exactly.
You're going to need to score.
With this defense too. This defense can get picked apart by a guy like Drew Brees and all the offensive weapons that Minnesota had, or that New Orleans has, because they sit there and they can just put up 40 points a game.
So now you're at 7-5.
Right. So now you come back home and you play the Bears. You should win that game. Bears popped you at third place. It was an ugly game. Your offense didn't show up. You should win this game at home.
8-5.
You then go on the road and you play the Giants.
Tough 3 games.
Who aren't exactly. This is the point I'm painting. This is the picture I'm painting for you. The Giants are a much better team at home than they are on the road themselves, and you are a much better team at home than on the road, and you've got to go to their place. That's going to be a tough game. That game right there, that could be the one that either gets you in or gets you out of the playoffs.
Yep, exactly.
That game right there. You then go and you have to play in Dallas.
I'll probably count the Dallas game as a loss right now.
Me too. And then you've got the Packers at home for the very last game of the season. You need to win that game as well. You need to take care of business, and you need to split with Green Bay. This is kind of how the season is setting up for this team. The playoffs are there. They're there for the taking. But the thing is, they've got 3 very tough road games, and we've already established they're not as good of a team on the road as they are at home. So does this team help give them a little? Does this game help give them a little bit of motivation? Help give them a little bit of confidence so they can take that on the road in their upcoming games? That game against the Giants is the one that I'm going to circle on my calendar, and that's the one that they have to have. They've got to have a victory there, because if they lose that game, they might be out of the playoffs.
Exactly. And so the way they're playing now, it's not good enough the last 3 games. They have to improve their running game. They got to improve their defensive pressure. They got to force a couple more turnovers. And what they got to do is, versus a team like the Giants, you got to get there. You got to not let Eli Manning pick you apart, because he's got Shepard, he's got Cruz, he's got OBJ, who always wants to put on a show. So that could get out of hand pretty quickly. So the Lions got to play a lot better, but the way it's looking like it's going to come down to the wire the last 3 games. And I believe, for the most part, the Dallas game has the potential to get out of hand. The Saints game could get out of hand, but they should be in the rest of the games. They should have a chance to do some things, but I wouldn't be surprised again if they lay duds versus Jacksonville and Minnesota, or they, win one of the next 2. It's just one of those things where, The good thing is Darius Slay and Riley Reif are coming back. You should get some more ammunition to help this team play well. Playing Jacksonville at home, you think that they're going to play pretty solidly. That might be a blowout, but they think they can come back on Thanksgiving and lose.
If Jacksonville has a tough week this week, they might be firing their coach, so that team could be in disarray, and that would be 2 games in a row where the team is coming in to play Detroit, or Detroit's going to play a team that is having some turmoil with their coaching staff. And again, a game that you have to win. Nobody makes excuses in the NFL for you winning games. You go in there and you do your job, you win the games that you're going to win, and that's the way it is.
So what one area do you think if they got significantly better at would help this team the most?
I think if they
better offense or blitzing the quarterback?
It would be defense. And I think if you can somehow incorporate and get a healthy DeAndre Levy back, because what has picked them apart the entire season? The tight end position. Who is the linebacker that would line up on the tight end? DeAndre Levy. Who is the fastest, most agile linebacker you have? DeAndre Levy. Who is the guy who can sit there and has the best cover skills in the linebacking core? DeAndre Levy. So if you can somehow get a healthy DeAndre Levy back after the bye week, and he's able to perform and kind of work his way back in, get some reps in during the Jacksonville game, get a couple reps in during the Minnesota game. That way, when you're sitting there taking on a team like the Saints, when you're taking on a team like the Giants, and you're going to wrap up your season with the Packers, you got a healthy DeAndre Levy who's firing on all cylinders. I think he alone is that important to this defense. He can be a game changer for them.
Yeah, it's been a fun ride so far. It's been probably, of the 3-4 years we've been talking about the Lions, this has been probably one of the more enjoyable years because there's a lot more positivity associated with them. There's a little bit more hope surrounding these Detroit Lions. People are jumping on the bandwagon pretty hard, and the support for Matthew Stafford is at probably an all-time high right now. He's got to continue to play at an MVP caliber level, and I think he can do that. Man, just go out there, find a running back that can break it to the house. It seems like it's the hardest thing out there. You tried to get Amir Abdullah, but he had fumble problems. Now he's got health problems. Go out there, find you the final piece. I think if you get Matthew Stafford a running game, 6 to 8 yards a clip, a guy that can break it to the house, look out. This could be something special.
I think they have that piece. I think it's Washington. The thing is, he doesn't get enough reps, and he's kind of buried on the depth chart right now. I mean, injuries have elevated his stock, and he's now your second, third running back out there. But the thing is, going into the season, he was just supposed to be a guy, just a piece. You know what I'm saying? And then he got injured early in the season, kind of derailed any momentum he had going on. So then you had to lean on Zach Zenner. But I believe that Dwayne Washington will be that guy because he's got some elusive skills. He is smart at running the ball. He can sit there and find the hole. He's patient. The guy doesn't have elite speed, but he's got the ability to make a big play, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. Again, I'm not necessarily sure why he's not their number one back, and then you use Theo Riddick as your change of pace. Keep Theo Riddick in his role that you had initially planned for him. Don't sit there and try to reinvent the wheel. Just keep him in his role, put Washington in that spot, and let Washington get those carries. This is a totally different team than when we were headed into Week 5, when they were 1-3, and I was screaming for them to lose every game going the rest of the season. It's a totally different team. Absolutely, totally different.
Yeah, exactly. Tough to watch a little bit in terms of early half performances, but hey, if they win the game late, it's
ugly.
worth it.
It's fine. Just win ugly. Just win. That's it.
Yes, sir. Let's take a quick timeout, come back, regroup. We're going to play a round of the Doctors in Session, and we'll talk about Pistons in the second half of this very fine podcast. You're listening to the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Team Top Cat Sales. Are you looking for team apparel for your high school, your club sports team, or corporation? Look no further than Top Cat Sales, located on the east side of Main Street in downtown Royal Oak, between 11 and 12 Mile. Through founder and former University of Michigan QB John Wangler's leadership, Top Cat Sales has developed a tradition of selling and distributing custom Adidas team apparel with the highest quality and best service. Get your organization, school, or club team all in with Adidas today by going to TopCatTeamSales.com. That's TopCatTeamSales.com. Also, follow Top Cat on Twitter at Team Top Cat. They don't want none of Doc and Jock. Are you kidding me out there? But You think out there from where we started, and it kind of goes to the point of kind of Donald Trump and his ability to kind of go from American businessman to president of the United States. Despite all the odds, despite all the controversy, he was able to reach his goals. And you know what's happening, cuz, on this podcast network? They're letting us become credentialed media. We're going to cover more and more Oakland University basketball, Detroit Titan basketball. Technically, I could put on my my resume and yourself. We are covering the beat for the Detroit Sports Podcast Network for Division I college basketball. And from where we started to basically next week, kind of rolling up to Oakland University, sitting on press row, covering the Oakland University Grizzlies. I'm looking forward to it and expanding our horizons and getting into learning. I've learned quite a bit about college basketball through Vito, through kind of hearing about Coach Bakari Alexander, through the interviews with Coach Campy. I'm getting more and more into the basketball vernacular. Interesting stuff.
From starting in a basement with random noises going on in the background and crying children above us to credentialed media members.
It's quite interesting.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Who would have thought when we were sitting there around the table dreaming this up when we were talking about starting the empire?
Very good stuff. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, so far, so good. We've attended several events. We've maintained professional etiquette, and I'm very happy. Let's see if our president, who flubs first, myself as a reporter or Donald Trump, the president. We shall see.
Ooh, boy.
Ooh.
Coin flip.
All right, sir. I'm looking forward to it. I love it. I look forward to it every time we do it. This is what we call the Doctors in Session. You got some great questions lined up. You're ready to pick my brain, and I got to deliver. And what we call the Doctor is in Session.
But to be the man, you gotta beat the man. And I'm saying, woo, right here. I'm the man. Woo!
All right, this week's going to be a little bit different. I've got basically 3 topics for you, and we're going to kind of delve into that and just kind of extrapolate and expand these topics out just a little bit. You are an MSU alum. You're a graduate. I want to know what the hell is really wrong with MSU football. You roll into Illinois and you sit there, you lay a dud, you end up getting picked apart by Jeff George Jr. And this was a game that I think all of us thought there's going to be 2 W's in a row here for Michigan State. It's going to be against the Illini and it's going to be at Rutgers. What the heck's going on?
Man, it is, we probably could do a whole 2-hour podcast on the destruction of MSU football. To start off, you're not getting production from guys that you would expect. You're having a hard time getting guys to complete games. I believe Copeland's out now for the year with an injury. Tyler O'Connor's been in and out of the lineup. There's been a lot of indecisive decisions regarding quarterback. And really the toughest thing, and when we talk about it a little bit more, I'm going to argue this could be something really good for the Michigan State program because it's going to force D'Antonio to look his philosophy square in the face and reevaluate what's wrong with MSU football. What's really wrong is the philosophy that D'Antonio has now brought to the table in this year going forward is stale. It's a situation where you got to the college football playoff based upon a great quarterback, a solid defense. But when you got there, that probably was your ceiling, was to be a top 4 team. When you got to the dance, now put everything else aside, when you got to the big dance, you went there against the elite. And when you played the elite, they spanked you. Alabama crushed you a couple times.
Pants at prom.
It was embarrassing. And so what should have happened was maybe if this one, everyone knew it was kind of be a transition year. What should have happened was you should have been willing to experiment with different things. Maybe just start a true freshman all the way through and Lewerke and just go with it. And when people question you going, hey, why are you starting a true freshman? You go, listen, I'm trying to build this guy up to be the guy in 3-4 years to take me to the promised land. And I'm going to let him make all the mistakes in year 1 and go forward from there. But no, you got a 5th-year guy that you thought he earned himself a lot of respect because he went to Ohio State and won, but that had a lot to do with some other factors as well. The defense played great, and a lot of it had to do with Ohio State coming in with the wrong scheme offensively. So you roll in with Tyler O'Connor. He is, a guy that's only his ceiling is not that high. He's not championship material. So what's wrong with MSU now this year is you're not playing at any level of confidence after you lost that first game. After Michigan State started losing, they just have not been able to really find anybody or any collection of guys together collectively to help get them out of it. And it just goes to the fact that this group of talent combined with coaches once Narduzzi left that aren't at the level that you had before All those factors in the mix result in a year like this. What's supposed to happen is you're supposed to go 7-6. You're not supposed to go 2-7, but right now the co-coordinators on offense and defense are trying their absolute best to muster together schemes that'll work. It just isn't working. But I'm arguing that this is good for Michigan State because it'll slap Mark D'Antonio right in the face that, hey, maybe, just maybe, we got to make some changes, bring in, slightly better guys, bring in more talent that can help us to get to the promised land. I'm looking at Mark D'Antonio, and he's now, unfortunately, the product of his own success. The goals now are to win the national title, but now it's going to, I'm starting to feel like it's going to be harder and harder even to win the Big Ten, but I'm hoping that maybe he'll take this embarrassing season and force himself to change the schemes up a little bit, bring in more talent, and work towards competing with the big dogs, because Michigan's is flying by you.
Do you think that having co-coordinators is a little bit of an issue? Because one guy might see something one way, the other coordinator might see it a different way, and at that point, the voice that's coming down from the top of the booth, it might be getting lost somewhere in the mix. Do you think that causes a little bit of an issue?
I don't think as much as it is that they're not talented enough. They're not good enough. They, in order to be at the best, look what Alabama did. They were successful. They've moved coaches around. They bring in Lane Kiffin. You got to be willing to go out there.
And that's like the most anti-Saban guy there is.
Exactly. You got to go out there and be willing to, find that young guy. Why isn't PJ Fleck on this staff beforehand? You didn't pluck him out, figure out that he was a solid guy. Now he's elevated himself. He's no longer in that coordinator status, but he's going to be getting himself a big-time job with what he's doing. But you need to go out there and invest in your coordinators. They've done it improperly. They're trying not to hurt people's feelings. So we're like, we're not going to pick. We're going to have two guys doing two jobs. It's like, hey, everybody's got to be gone. Go out there and pay coordinators what they need to get what the job needs, which is you got to pay them roughly $1 million a year to go out there and do the job.
What about leadership on this team? Because it doesn't look like Tyler O'Connor brings the same intangibles as past leaders on this team, as past captains. Josiah Price, probably one of the best tight ends in all of the Big Ten. There are times where it almost looks like he takes plays off, or he's just like, you know what, get me out of this game. I don't want to get hurt. I'm done with this season. Let's just expedite this and get me to the finish here. Do you think leadership on this team is a problem?
I would say that when I look at this Michigan State team, obviously it's totally different than past teams. I would just say it's a team that's not as talented as they have been in the past. Malik McDowell was a solid piece. Riley Bulla was a guy that we thought would take the next step, but other than that, nobody else has stepped up. And in combination with bad coaching, it just looks bad on the field. I think they have leaders, but it's just not. It's not one of those things where I think guys with better talent look like better leaders.
All right, so taking this talented group of guys that you called Michigan State, they're gonna sit there and they're gonna go play in the Dirty Diaper Bowl, where Michigan State's gonna take on Rutgers. Do they at least get a victory in the craptastic Wonderlic test that will be this Saturday game?
See that guy over there? $1 days, $1 tickets. Get it? 50-yard line, $1, get your tickets.
Michigan State still won't give us a credential. What the hell?
All right. You believe that? To cover Rutgers, they said no.
There's nobody showing up to this game, and you guys they're like, you know what? Go spend $5, get a ticket, get yourself in yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, no problem, guys. Thanks.
I don't even know what to say. I don't even think it's going to be, the spread is like, 14 to 18 points or something like that along those lines. I just say that it's going to probably be a close game, but you should beat Rutgers. They're terrible. But any given performance, Michigan State could lose to anybody. So, you know what? At this point in time, I'll just call it a pick 'em.
Dude, the BTN is picking this up. I wonder if this is going to be on like the first BTN network, or if it's going to be on like BTN, like I think it's like 610 on my channels. So I wonder if it's going to be like 610-4, just like somewhere down the line, like one of those auxiliary BTN channels.
Now I know
the line's 14, by the way.
Yeah, I know the Big Ten wants to start putting games on Friday, but I would have no problem. Just air it on Wednesday and let it get over. You know what I mean? Wednesday at noon.
Just give you something else to do.
Exactly. What a disaster.
Yeah, not good. Not good for Michigan State so far. Worst losing streak they've had in a long time here. All right, let's transition into the Detroit Tigers. Last week, the Detroit Tigers took their first step towards a new mindset and a new way of building a contender when they worked a sign and trade with Cameron Maben, sending him to the Los Angeles of Anaheim Angels, saving $9 million. Who do you expect to be traded next? Astros are already claiming that they're going to be making phone calls to the Tigers and trying to work out a deal for Miguel Cabrera. Teams have contacted the Tigers about Justin Verlander as well. And Al Avila's come out and basically said, hey, everybody's open. Make us an offer. We're willing to sit there and wheel and deal.
Here we go. Fire sale has commenced. They're looking to, and what he said to MLB was just really devastating. It was a dagger. We'll talk about that in just a few minutes here. But I think the guy that's probably the easiest to move and probably they're fielding calls right now is for JD Martinez. I think that that's a guy that will bring you a haul, maybe another starting pitcher, a guy that maybe you can add to the bullpen as well. That's a guy that's young talent that's now shown that he can do it back-to-back years. The injury was a little bit concerning in that he's an outfielder that needs to kind of work on his game a little bit more in the outfield, but he's pretty solid overall as an offensive threat, and that earns you big-time money. And based upon the way the past contract went, he's looking to max out, so get something for him.
The worst problem is
he'll be the first guy out.
He's one of those guys that you would like to build your team around because he's young. He's shown that he can do it. It looks like he has figured out how to swing a baseball bat because that was the big problem with him. That's why Houston let him go. He looks like he figured out how to swing a baseball bat. He can field his position out there in right field pretty well. I mean, he's not great by any stretch of the imagination, but he does a better than average job. He's one of those people that you would like to sit there and build your team around, but now you're probably going to have to sell him off because, again, something that we talked about before, you didn't sit there and extend him a contract to where you can sit there and say, hey, you're good. We want to keep you around. Let's do this. Let's work something out where we keep you here long term. You maybe cut us a little bit of a deal by saving us a few shekels, and we'll make you very happy in the long run. And again, like you said, you're probably going to have to trade him off now. So would you be open? I know last season you were very open to trading a guy like Miguel Cabrera. Would you trade a guy like Justin Verlander and Miguel Cabrera this season?
Why doesn't anybody listen to the DOC? Come on, man. I'm sitting here, Macomb County, and doing our thing, trying to figure out how to rebuild this team. I wanted to rebuild this team last year. They tried to sell us hope, and it didn't happen. And now you're sitting here in the same spot you were last offseason, and we knew it 3 years ago when we looked at the numbers going, I don't think we can sustain this. The house is crumbling. The money's drying up. How are they going to do this? They wanted that damn ring, and they thought that they could squeeze one out in any way possible. It just didn't work out. And these Detroit Tigers now are selling, and should they trade JV and Miguel Cabrera? Absolutely. I mean, if you had unlimited payroll, of course not. These guys are, JV could probably get you another 15 to 17 wins next year. But in the mantra of building an organization, you could get a haul for both of those guys. Miguel Cabrera is going to be harder because the numbers are huge. JV, pitching, everybody wants. If you get a big time, get a team like Boston with a plethora of young guys, go out there and make the move. I would argue if you want to trade just one of them, JV, you've adequately done the job and replaced him in Michael Fulmer. And I'm going to argue that with proper moves made by Al Avila, I'm thinking that this team is a little bit closer to success than some people may think.
I'm going to argue with you that if you were to keep one of these guys, it should be Miguel Cabrera. All right. And the reason I say that is you have to realize, too, that basically inflation kind of inflates all numbers. And what you're looking at with Miguel Cabrera is something like a David Ortiz. Down the stretch of David Ortiz's career, he was worth every penny that Boston paid him. And I think Miguel Cabrera will kind of do the same thing, where he'll sit there and hit you over 100 RBI every season. He'll sit there and he'll bat somewhere close to 300, and he'll hit you, 25 to almost 30 home runs every single year. And if you move him into a DH role, you sit there and you help save his body, you save his hips, save his ankles, and he's totally worth the $32 million that you're going to pay him every season. That being said, more to your point, if you were going to trade somebody, it would probably be Verlander because pitching goes, and you also, as pitchers get older, I know he's coming off of a Cy Young season. He's in the running for it. As pitchers get older, their velocity weakens, and at any point, basically a pitcher's arm can fall off. So he would be the guy that you should probably move. I would try to hold on to Miguel Cabrera for as long as I possibly can because I see him turning into what David Ortiz turned into for the Boston Red Sox.
Did you hear Al Avila on MLB? He said, it might take us 3 winners to kind of get to where we need to go. And I'm like, if you read it, I get it. It's actually pretty factual. It's not going to be a quick fix. He may be even subconsciously trying to get the message out to the higher price guys that, hey, if you're looking for a quick fix, maybe we can get you on another team and kind of ease the JV out and ease the Uptons out. But he's accurate. I think that it could take a little bit longer to reach World Series status and things like that. But
what about competing for a division, though?
Competing for a division, I think they can do within a year or two if they make a couple solid commitments to certain areas. You got a solid starting core, Zimmerman, Fulmer, Norris, and Boyd. Those are 4 guys that can do some things if they all stay healthy. You get a couple more guys that maybe you can try out and round out, or maybe someone steps up from the minors and earns that spot. You kind of got to fiddle with Pelfrey and Anibal Sanchez. You got to figure out what you're going to do there. If you make a commitment to the starters and you make a commitment to reshaping that bullpen, then I think that you're looking at a team that can compete because you got talent at some key spots. And look what Cleveland did. They rode Corey Kluber all the way to the World Series, Game 7. If you can do that, you can find that 1 or 2 guys in the bullpen to really help you out. You can get to the division.
All right, so as they continue on, as the Tigers continue on, sitting there trying to rebuild and rework this team, what do you think Al Avila's legacy is going to be? Because I think we can look back at what Dave Dombrowski did. He stepped into a situation that was absolutely atrocious. There was no minor league system here. It was brutal. They had trouble drafting. That wasn't very good. They didn't have a lot of talent on this team. Dave Dombrowski was able to go out, sign guys through free agency, be able to sit there and wheel and deal because he was able to take a checkbook to the draft, sign big names. Those big names didn't pan out because their drafting was still horrible, but was able to sit there and flip these big name drafted kids into talent that was able to go onto the field and was able to get you guys like your Miguel Cabreras.
Now,
he was able to get close, but never seal the deal on winning a World Series. Now, what does Al Avila's legacy look like it's going to lead for you?
Initially, you're starting to see that he's going to take this team and transition it to a team more along the lines of a Moneyball team. He brought in a guy from New York to really head the analytics department, and now he's going to be entrusted to and trusted to really find players that are going to be a little bit more cost-effective that you can get more value out of. And so with that, I think he's going to really turn over the talent, and I think that early on, the thing that he's going to have to weather is patience. The attendance has declined for the better part of 4 years. The expectations are still high when you're charging the prices that you're charging, and he's going to be expected to bring this team back to a level because you've had success now with every team in the division. White Sox won a World Series before you. KC's been in the World Series a couple times. Now Cleveland's been there. So now you got a lot of pressure at that position. So his first step is reshape the organizational philosophy. I think he'll do good there. Now, the end game, the results on the field, I think he'll be fired before he gets he'll be fired before he gets the goal.
You think so?
He'll be here 5-6 years, and he'll probably be at the forefront of the turnover in terms of the players. But when your first decision is to keep Ausmus and then you have an opportunity to let him go and you don't, I don't care who's mandating it. It's not the right move, and it's going to cost him his job.
Interesting. I don't know if he'll get fired. It seems as though him and Chris Ilitch are it looks like Chris Ilitch is taking more of a heavy hand in things because Mike Ilitch was the guy who always opened up the checkbook and said, let's spend. Just get me my World Series so I can die. And it looks like Chris Ilitch is coming in and saying, you know what, let's pull back a little bit and let's kind of get more financially sound. I don't know if he'll get fired because you got to realize this mandate's coming from above. But let's transition into to the Red Wings here. Big win in Philadelphia the other night. They sat there, they called up Tyler Bertuzzi. He is the nephew to Todd Bertuzzi. He debuted on Tuesday night in Philadelphia. What were your thoughts on his first NHL game?
Now, I know a lot of people were clamoring, going, I know the Red Wings were weighing their options, maybe deciding between him or Anthony Mantha, but you saw what happened prior to 5 straight losses after the 6-game winning streak. You were seeing a team that wasn't shooting the puck. They couldn't get in front of the net. They were getting beaten in their own zone ridiculously. They were defensively lapsing on all levels. The goaltenders were playing okay, but not at, Jimmy Howard's playing great, but Mrazek's been up and down. So you saw a situation where the club needed to kind of mix it up a little bit, and they go, okay, we're getting opportunities. We got guys that can score. We want to bring a guy that's a little bit more gritty, but with talent. And a guy like Bertuzzi, 21 years old, can shoot the puck, can win those battles a little bit more grit. I'm satisfied with bringing him up, giving him an opportunity. All the players said that, hey, this is a guy that's willing to get into those scraps, willing to throw his body around and earn the spots on the ice. And I think that's what the team needed. And you saw versus Philadelphia, oh my gosh, that streak really got in their heads, and they were able to win the game, I believe, in a shootout, which was good. Double A's performing, and he's earning more and more ice time. I think it was the right call-up for the opportunity. You need a little bit more grit on the team. And, of course, as the season starts with success, Vanek is now on extended IR, so this is now his month hiatus that everyone has come to know him for. But you need a guy like Bertuzzi on there to kind of really shoot the puck and get in front of the net. You got to do it. So I would take grit over flash at this point in time.
For his debut, I thought it was pretty good. He plays heavy. He's a heavy skater. He likes to throw the body around. He was a +1 in the game. Didn't get a whole ton of ice time. Did get a shot on goal, though, but he's a heavy guy. He's one of those guys who will battle you in the corner, doesn't mind getting his nose a little bit dirty. And that, I think, is the difference between him and Mantha. And my next question for you is, and it sounds like you're leaning towards they got the decision right, but should it have been Anthony Mantha who should have been called up when a lot of their issues are scoring, and Anthony Mantha is doing nothing but putting the puck in the net down in Grand Rapids?
Yeah, man, it's one of those things where they're trying to really prove to him that you got to be consistent and keep doing it, and they're just looking for other type things for him on the defensive end. That's obvious. He can put the puck in the net. It's needed. They probably believe that his performance will dip a little bit at the NHL level, but they want him to be a more well-rounded player, and they're absolutely refusing to back down from it. So if that's the stance, you have to agree with it, but I would say that Mantha is probably on his way up at some point this season. Just be patient, and they have a plan in mind. They want him to improve because they really don't want to put players in positions to fail and really lose confidence. So at this point in time, if they collectively, you got to remember that Todd Nelson's down there in Grand Rapids, and he's also consulting, and so he's seeing what's going on and also evaluating with Blashill as to who is going to come up and do the best job. And I think that Bertuzzi right now is the man for the job.
Nice pull on the Todd Nelson there. Look at you. Somebody did their homework. That's for damn sure. All right, you want some games to watch this weekend?
Yes,
College
sir.
football-wise?
College football. State Rutgers, baby. Not watching.
Not watching that. That is the toilet bowl for sure. All right, so number 10, Penn State is taking on Indiana. That Indiana offense is something fun to watch. Penn State will probably have their hands full there. Otherwise, we're moving on down here, and we're taking a look at these games. There is a big matchup in the SEC here. Number 24 LSU will be taking on number 25 Arkansas. That's at 7 o'clock. You can check that game out on ESPN. Also, we've got number 20 USC taking on number 4 Washington. That's on Fox at 7:30. Of course, if you're a Michigan fan like I am, Michigan travels to Iowa. This is another one of their big games where they've got to go on the road and kind of test their mettle and improve themselves. It's another great tune-up game for the Ohio State game that'll be coming up. Kenneck's a very difficult place to play. That game's on at 8 o'clock on ABC, so you're going to want to check that one out for sure. If you're going to be up late night, like I will be, California at number 23, Washington State. That'll be on at 10:30 on ESPN, and that'll kind of round it out as we kind of build towards that Michigan-Ohio State game. It's the matchups are kind of becoming few and far between because you're kind of starting to see the talent separate itself. So we'll see how this kind of goes as the season progresses along, but can't wait for that Michigan-Ohio State game.
Yes, sir. That was the Doctors in Session. Good stuff all around. Very good insight. I think that it's a very interesting time watching the Red Wings, the Lions, and the Pistons. Tigers are in flux as well, but it's a little bit more hopeful than in the past. Not as satisfied as we'd want to be with all these teams, but at least we're not the Red Wings right now, stiff with another $100 million in a tab. You hear that?
Dude, yeah.
Another $100 million.
That stadium is going to cost a fortune.
Cha-ching. I was looking at that. I'm like, oh, man. Oh, we're just over, we're over budget, like, $103 million.
Was it like $638 million?
My goodness.
Nuts.
All right. Last time out, we'll come back and we'll talk about the surging Pistons. Woohoo. Go Pistons. Stay with us, Doc and Jock, episode 170.
Doc and Jock here for Fanatic U. If you're looking for some sweet sports swag and you love your Detroit teams, and I mean you really love your Detroit teams, you got to check out fanaticu.com and get the coolest gear out there and rock your Red Wings shirt, rock your Lions shirt, rock your Piston apparel. Wear it till the wheels fall off. Michigan State, you know what? They got it too. Check out Fanatic U. They have 6 locations all over Metro Detroit. Check them out, fanaticu.com.
Yeah, we coming now. Come on. Yeah. That's right. We put it down. It's like a family in here, just a little disabled. Putting it down, we lay them out on the table. Yeah. Who's in the house? The brothers in the house. Gotta turn it on out, let you know what we about. Kinda like Cain and Abel, a bit unstable. Don't be breaking the brain, break the whole damn table.
Thanks, everybody, for sticking around. Final segment here on episode 170. My goodness, cuz, man, those back-to-back games are super tough on these NBA guys. It's almost you can build, when you look at the schedule, it's so tough on your legs. Performances, especially with the Pistons as of late, they rarely go back-to-back and get 2 wins in a row. They played their first game on this tough trip on the road at Sacramento, and they lost. It was not a really good performance. In the games where they haven't performed, they struggle on the defensive end. The help, the backside help isn't there all the time consistently. The shooting is a little bit inconsistent, but when they play well, like the recent stretch they had at home, my goodness, you start looking and you go, whoa, man, Tobias Harris took that step. Andre Drummond is a guy that's, improving his free throws. He's playing a lot better, a lot stronger, and Ish Smith has held the fort down. All credit to him, and that the offense looks pretty good, and he's so far early in the season shown to be a good addition.
Absolutely.
I'm happy with the Pistons. It's a nice watch.
Absolutely. The thing is, they're going on this massive road trip right now where 6 of 7 games are going to be on the road. They're playing teams like San Antonio, Cleveland. They've got OKC. That game will be at home. But this is going to be a little bit of a grind here for this team. And I want to know what you expect to get through this gauntlet of a schedule. I mean, do you think they can go maybe 4-3 and sit there and continue on their winning ways?
I'm going to go 3-4.
3-4.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit tough, man. These are some tough teams, San Antonio, Cleveland, OKC. It's a schedule that, really, and in the past, when you look at it, they've struggled consistently on these, West Coast swings and things like that early in the season, which is always tough because the Pistons always seem to start the year playing, a series or so on the road on the West Coast. So it's a little bit challenging right now with the schedule. And look at the teams that you're playing. San Antonio, I mean, year by year, they just show up. Cleveland, I don't think they've lost a game yet. If they have, I don't recall it, but they're playing at a solid level coming off of the NBA title. OKC, I like OKC and the situation they were put in. You got a situation where your best player was, saying, all right, adios, I'm out. I'm bailing on this organization, the organization that took a chance on me. But the guy in wings is super motivated to show the entire world, fine, my Batman or Robin or whoever, what role you want to take, doesn't matter. I'm going to go out here. Russell Westbrook wants to show up in skinny jeans, drop 50, and go home. And he wants to do that night in and night out. That's going to be a tough out. And obviously in that matchup, Ish Smith versus Russell Westbrook, you give the edge to OKC. But what's going to be imperative in any situation when you go on the road is defense. If this team can solidify their defense, play a lot better, and communicate a little bit more, maybe mix in Lure a little bit more, get him to shoot finally. I know the mandate is for him to shoot more, and if the offense can continue to be effective when they're hot, Tobias Harris and KCP can do some things night in, night out, and if they do those things and they're the leaders of the team, then you get the situation where you got a nicely paid guy waiting in the wings to come back.
Defense is a big issue for this team. If they can lock down on the defensive side of the ball, they win more times than not. It's just the way that this team is put together. They don't have that one superstar who can totally take over a game. They've got nice pieces, and they've got guys who can sit there and do things for long stretches, but can't totally dominate a game. So if they can lock down the defensive side of the ball, I think they can sit there and pull away with some victories on this West Coast road trip and this just gauntlet that they're going to go through where they're 6 of 7 are on the road. Now, if they had Reggie Jackson, this OKC game, I think would be much, much closer. But without Reggie Jackson, without that fire, without that burn, because you got to remember, he absolutely hates Oklahoma. He hates everything that went on there. And him and Russell Westbrook don't have a good relationship. He, I think, is the motivating force when they take on Oklahoma. And without him, I don't know if Ish Smith can sit there and bring that level of intensity. I just think it's another game for him because he doesn't have anything invested like Reggie Jackson does. So I think you're right. Maybe 3-4 on this stretch of 7 games.
That's where you need to be around 4-3, 3-4. It'll be okay.
Yeah, when you're going on the road for this many games this early in the season, honestly, we don't necessarily know what we have as far as a team yet. We do know that when, like I said, they play defense, they're a pretty solid squad. Without playing defense and just trying to sit there and just show up, they're not that good. And you're going to go against the likes of, like you said, San Antonio, and you got Cleveland in the mix as well. I mean, come on. These are powerhouses in the NBA. So it'll be interesting. I think 3-4, it's a nice place to be. It'll put you probably, I don't know, maybe somewhere 2nd or 3rd in your division. And right now, everybody's looking up at Cleveland. So it's interesting. But you did touch on something when we were setting this up. How impressed are you with Andre Drummond and his improvements that he's made at the free throw line? I mean, at this point in the season, he's right around 50%, which is someplace where we wanted him to be last year. I mean, you got to remember, last year he was shooting in the 30s. So that's a huge elevation for this guy. The other night, he sat there, I think he was like 5 of 7 or 4 of 7 from the line. That's pretty solid.
Even being 500 this year, it still puts his career free throw percentage at .383. 38% so far. It ups it a little bit, but last year was bad. 50% is what we need.
Again, that's a huge improvement for a guy who struggles at the line.
Yeah, we need that. And whether it be, feeling more comfortable in a routine, virtual reality, feeling comfortable, taking a stroll down, the court. I just think that for basketball players, you have to get into that routine. And he's obviously put in the time. It's obvious, because what's going to happen if he doesn't? Nobody likes at the tail end of the game to be known as the buster who gets sent to the bench. That's really embarrassing.
Riding the pine, bro.
Exactly. And then when that happened last year, he started to sulk. And it was visible that he was pissed off. And so that's going to force you into the gym. And a lot of people say that, where do you make your improvements at the free throw line? In the gym. If it takes you 1,000 shots, then you got to make 1,500, 2,000. And if he can get to 50%, then that earns him the opportunity to stay on the floor. I'm very impressed. And it's something that if he can take that next step and be a solid leader, his numbers are looking pretty good.
Yeah, if you watch the way that he has just developed at the free throw line, like you said, it's going to keep him on the floor more. He's important to this team, not just as a shot blocker and on the defensive side, but he is great at getting offensive rebounds and putting the ball back. If you can't hit your free throws late in games, you're not going to be on the floor, and they're going to lose an integral piece of the Stan Van Gundy offense. So he's totally important for this team and needs to sit there and nail down these free throws. I'm impressed with what he's done so far, and I think you're seeing it. As a team, they're able to sit there and they're able to win more games because he's now on the floor more. There's more trust there with Stan Van Gundy, and he's hitting crucial free throws when they need them.
So on average, you'd want to see him utilized just a little bit more in that offense. Go through him a little bit more, let him develop his offense and get the easy buckets, because, like we've seen before, sometimes when the Pistons aren't playing well, they overly rely on the shot, and they got to make it. And unfortunately, for the team, when they struggle, the shots don't go down. But they can get hot. It's a professional NBA team. And like many other teams, it's the new philosophy: shoot the ball, try to get open threes as much as possible, and do your thing on the defensive end. But I like the fact that, Andre Drummond can be a force, and you just need to really try to earn some easier baskets every now and then.
Baby steps, bro. Baby steps. He's only 23. If he can somehow, over the next year or so, nail down these free throws and work in maybe a turnaround jump shot, I think we're good. I think we're solid. I mean, that's what you want from your center, and I think that's what you're going to get.
It was nice to see the Pistons. Did you check into the Knicks game? It was solid. Carmelo was doing his thing. That's an interesting team with D Rose. I like what the Knicks are doing, and the situation with Hornacek as their coach. The Knicks are a franchise, and what they've done in the last decade has been deplorable. You're talking about James Dolan being one of the worst owners and collection of talent, and assembling the worst collection of talent to run his organization in the history of sports. But I like D Rose. I like Noah. I like having Carmelo there. He was on point, but the Pistons did some things, and they were able to go toe-to-toe with them. And it had a little bit of a kind of a LA feel to it, where there were some celebrities in the house. People always want to see the Knicks play, and it was an enjoyable game.
I like Joakim Noah's air ball.
That was the best.
That was nice.
He literally took the ball and kind of pushed it, and then the following shot was an air ball by another dude. That was awesome. Back-to-back air balls. But yeah, the Knicks are an interesting bunch. And but the East, you would think that this team should firmly slot into a top 5 seed.
Absolutely.
No doubts.
That's where I'm at. And now you got Reggie Jackson. He's coming back. He's begun his rehab assignment, and that should be complete in about 4 weeks or so. So will this team be better with the addition of Reggie Jackson, or do you think he might bog things down? Because Ish Smith's doing a great job. I mean, he's able to sit there and generate a ton of assists, not turn the ball over. It looks like he's fully comfortable and embedded in this situation, running this offense. So do you see that Reggie Jackson coming back and playing a more integral piece on this team and being able to sit there and take over command of this offense is going to make this team that much better?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Reggie Jackson coming back. Not only the fact that I have him on a basketball fantasy team, but I think that he'll be eased into the lineup. I don't think that the first game he'll be thrown in to play 48 minutes. It'll be a nice, healthy mix, probably even up for the first couple games, help him to develop his shot. And then once Stan Van Gundy senses that he's ready to go, he'll get more and more of the responsibility. I think he bogs things down just being naturally who he is. He's a high-volume shooter, as they like to say now, as a new basketball beat reporter here.
And yeah,
he's a high-volume shooter, and he needs those touches and those shots in order to feel involved in that offense. I'm hoping that he can find, and he started to get better as the season wore on last year, that he was finding that right balance of distributing versus shooting. But, the key thing that a lot of people are looking at this year is whether he's clutch. Can he make those shots late when you're down 2 and you're trying to take a three-pointer? Do you make it? And he's been okay, but I think he can do better. He can have more moments that he's a little bit more clutch late in the games. Yeah,
that's my big concern is his turnover propensity is much higher than a guy like Ish Smith. Ish Smith turns the ball over maybe 2 times a game, if that. And Ish Smith's able to sit there and get buckets. He doesn't have to score all the time. Reggie Jackson is a much more gifted player on offense than Ish Smith is, but Ish Smith is much better at taking care of the basketball, and I think that might be what this team needs. So I do have concern when Reggie Jackson comes back, and I think you're right. He'll be kind of eased into it, and I think as the season goes on, there'll probably be a limit on his game minutes because it's knee tendonitis. This can flare up at any time, and if Reggie Jackson is your starting point guard, you want him to be healthy as the stretch continues and goes along. Yeah,
you're probably, if you're SVG, willing to take a turnover or 2 if he's going to drop you 28 to 30 points a game. He's a guy that can really get hot at times and can lead a team. But what you want to see is him definitely keeping KCP and Tobias Harris involved because they need their shots, and they're the guys that really put the biscuit in the basket more often than not. You want to rely on those guys, and if he comes in and can shoot the basketball, that's just a plus. We'll wait to see how he responds. But I'm kind of nervous that he's going to come back and probably we might be, if you're fearful at all, if you're a little bit pessimistic, be looking at an up and down year for him coming back because you favor it. You might try to play, get on the court and play a little bit injured when you're not 100%. So let's just hope he comes back 100% and can sustain the rigors of a tough NBA schedule because, those boys, they bang around. It's not a soft league. It's not no rec league game. They bang around, and if you're soft, you're getting thrown to the floor.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. What a great podcast. An election edition of the Detroit Sports Podcast. Not a typical media outlet. We're here dedicated to Detroit sports, uncensored, and we're not jumping the gun on any predictions. Although I might say the Lions could win the Super Bowl. Poll, I think.
Check the polls.
Check the polls. I think at least 65,000 people at Ford Field will think that after the Jacksonville game.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Here's a question for you. Have you ever been elected for any type of office or any position or anything like that?
I have never really run. Leadership probably my next step as a development as a person. Being that I'm a psychologist, I do help people gain leadership type stuff. But for me personally, I might do volunteer work. I might, I thought, to end this, I thought about maybe when I was like a teenager, politics would be something that'd be very interesting. But the way that they roll out there, it's nasty, man. It's a tough leadership. Leading other people is tough because everybody has agendas. There's politics. There's, backstabbing. There's relationships you got to develop. Politics is a nasty business, and I don't want anybody digging up anything about me from the past. I went to Michigan State, so
pull all your skeletons out the closet.
Don't pull out any of those skeletons. And but in terms of being elected, no, I've never thrown my name into any kind of hat. Have you?
When I was a kid, for different sports teams, I was elected captain, co-captain, like grade school basketball team, grade school soccer team.
So now you're bringing up an old wound for me because I had the politic to get on a 9-year-old all-star team. It didn't happen. I played Little League at 9 years old, and we had this kid that was, skinny, scrawny kid, but he was popular. He was the pitcher, and he got, he was pretty effective, but I had the most hits, RBIs, and home runs on the team. And then it came to a vote, and he was more popular. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. I got 2 home runs and 5 runs and all these hits. And I didn't get voted to the Little League All-Star game. I was very sad.
Really?
I didn't get voted in. I had the best stats, but I wasn't the most popular. It was a vote. We just voted. I think it was 1 or 2 guys, and I didn't get voted in, so I was bummed out.
Well, that sucks, dude. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was an all-star in my own head, so it didn't really matter. It was disappointing for all 3 minutes.
You still think you're an all-star.
Yes, sir. All right, sir. Let's get out of here. Get back to the business at hand. Great podcast. Look for more coverage from us. Oakland basketball, Detroit Titan basketball. Good stuff all around the network. Check out all the great coverage here on the DSPN network. For the Jock, Adam Strozinski, I'm the Doc, John McAroon. See you next time for episode 171.
Go Wings, go Stones, go Leos.
This was locker room talk.
Second dick.
Sorry, Detroit. Didn't quite work out.
And all I can say is Detroit Sports Podcast scores.
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.